What happens when a moment meant to be lighthearted turns into a confrontation that leaves an entire studio frozen in disbelief? What happens when a guest, adored by millions, finally decides she's done holding back? Before we dive into this jaw-dropping moment, make sure you subscribe to Stage View, like this video, and drop a comment to support the channel. Now, let's step inside the room where everything changed. The lights over the set of The View glowed their usual soft gold, warming the glossy table where generations of controversies had sparked to life. But this morning, the energy felt different. It hummed, like the air itself was waiting for someone to strike a match. Audience members whispered among themselves. Some fans clutched handmade signs for Selena Gomez. Others simply leaned forward, phones ready, sensing something rare was about to happen. Selena had been invited to promote her new film, a quiet, emotional drama she'd poured her heart into. She stepped onto the stage with her usual soft smile, the kind that made people exhale and relax. But beneath it, behind those warm brown eyes, something flickered, a storm she kept tightly caged. Sunny Hostin, seated at her spot beside Joy Behar, watched Selena closely from the moment she walked in. There was no hostility on her face, but there was an intensity far different from the other hosts. Sunny had a reputation for being thorough, sharp, unafraid to dig where others wouldn't. And Selena, though polite and gentle, was stepping into a moment where she didn't realize she'd have to defend more than just her work. The opening banter was light. Joy cracked a joke about the weather. Whoopi gave her usual warm greeting, grounding the room with her calm presence. Sarah and Alyssa exchanged a quick laugh over something off camera. Everything felt smooth, too smooth, like the calm before a sudden downpour. Finally, the camera zoomed in toward Sunny. She leaned slightly forward, fingers interlocked, elbows resting on the glossy table. "Selena," she began, her voice respectful but edged with something harder, "there's been a lot of conversation lately about your public image. How much of it is authentic, and how much of it is curated to protect your mental health? Do you feel you're being fully transparent with your audience?" The room fell silent. A single cough echoed from somewhere in the back row. Selena's smile thinned, just barely. She shifted in her chair, the fabric of her dress whispering against itself. "That's a layered question," Selena replied softly. "I try to be honest, but I also try to protect myself. That's not about hiding. That's about survival." Sunny nodded, but her eyes didn't soften. "Of course, but some critics have said that your recent emotional posts, and even your interviews, feel selectively vulnerable. Like you reveal just enough to maintain sympathy, but not enough to be held accountable for contradictions." A wave of tension rolled across the audience. Someone murmured, "Wow." Selena blinked, slowly, like her brain was catching up to a slap she hadn't seen coming. "Contradictions?" she repeated, her tone still calm but a spark igniting beneath it. Sunny's lips pursed as she glanced at the card in front of her. "For example, you've spoken a lot about stepping away from social media for your mental health. But then your TikTok activity went up. People noticed, and they wanted clarity." Selena inhaled sharply. "I never said I abandoned it completely. I said I limit it. And I do. Heavily. But I'm also an artist in a digital world. I can't disappear." "But your fans worry," Sunny pressed. "They see mixed signals." There it was, the strike of the match. Selena's posture straightened. The softness on her face didn't disappear, but something fierce replaced its foundation. "Sunny," she said, her voice low and crystal clear, "my fans worry because they care. They don't demand explanations for every breath I take. That's something the media does." A few audience members gasped. Joy raised her eyebrows, exchanging a quick look with Sarah. Whoopi subtly pushed her glasses up her nose, preparing to intervene if needed. Sunny didn't flinch. "Selena, you've built a platform around mental health advocacy. It's only fair that people want transparency when actions don't align with messages." Selena let out a breath, almost a laugh, but not a happy one. "Transparency doesn't mean I owe the world every detail of my personal struggles. Transparency doesn't mean bleeding out on camera for entertainment." Her voice had weight now. The room hung on each syllable. "And it certainly doesn't mean," she continued, "that I need to justify every second I choose to post online." A murmur of agreement rippled through the audience. Sunny held her ground, but something in her expression changed. A flash of surprise at the unexpected force behind Selena's words. Still, she pushed forward. "I'm not accusing you of wrongdoing. I'm asking what many are thinking." Selena leaned forward slightly, hands clasped gently in her lap. then maybe the question isn't why I share selectively. Maybe the question is why people feel entitled to know everything. A long, heavy pause filled the studio. Whoopi finally spoke, her tone slow, measured. Let's remember, Selena's human. And a young one at that. Social media is complicated for everybody. Selena nodded gratefully toward her. But Sunny wasn't done, not yet. Of course she's human, she said. But when you become a public voice for millions struggling with mental health, people look for consistency. They listen. They follow. They depend on it. Selena swallowed, her jaw tightening for a brief second. She looked directly at Sunny now, really looked. And I take that seriously. But I'm not perfect. I'm not going to pretend to be. What I do is try. Every day. If I share too much, I'm accused of exploiting my own pain. If I share too little, I'm accused of hiding. There's no winning. Her voice cracked, raw, honest. The audience shifted, emotionally pulled into the center of her vulnerability. Sunny softened, barely, but enough to show she felt the weight of what Selena was saying. She opened her mouth to respond, but Selena continued, cutting gently across her. And yes, sometimes I post things when I shouldn't. Sometimes I disappear. Sometimes I make mistakes. That's part of healing. It's messy. It's real. Sunny sat back slightly, absorbing her words. For the first time that morning, she didn't have a follow-up ready. The producers in the back leaned closer to the monitor, sensing the spark had turned into something bigger. Something that couldn't be wrapped up neatly with a commercial break. Joy cleared her throat, trying to lighten the moment. Well, she said, half laughing, I think we all need a drink after that. The audience chuckled, but the tension didn't let go. It simply adjusted, lingering like steam after boiling water has been poured out. Selena looked down for a moment, her fingers brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. But when she lifted her eyes again, her expression held a new determination. A firmness. A choice. Sunny, she said again, quieter this time but somehow stronger. I respect you. Truly. You're doing your job. You're asking questions a lot of people are afraid to ask. But today, I'm not here to be dissected. I'm here because I love what I do, and I want to share it. Sunny nodded slowly. Fair enough, she murmured. But the camera, zooming in on Selena's face, captured something unmistakable. She wasn't just defending herself. She was drawing a line. The moment settled between them like dust glowing in the studio lights, soft, slow, but impossible to ignore. And then, almost too quickly, Sunny shifted her cards and prepared her next question. A question that would take the simmering tension and hurl it straight into the fire. But that's where the real explosion begins. Sunny's fingers hovered over her next cue card, but the audience could already sense that whatever she was about to say wasn't going to smooth things over. Joy leaned back in her chair, arms crossed, almost bracing herself. Sarah subconsciously chewed her lip. And Whoopi silently exhaled through her nose, the way she always did right before chaos arrived. Selena's posture remained steady, but her breath had changed, slower, deeper, like she was preparing for another wave. She didn't know what was coming, but something in Sunny's eyes told her it wouldn't be gentle. All right, Sunny said, her voice level. You mentioned earlier that you're not here to be dissected, and I respect that. But, Selena, there's something else we need to talk about. The temperature in the room shifted. Sunny continued, careful but unwavering. Recently, in an interview, you said you felt misunderstood by people in the industry, that some individuals who once claimed to support you were, in your words, not who they appeared to be. Many assumed you were referring to your past relationships or friendships. She paused. But others believe it was aimed at fellow public figures, maybe even people sitting at tables like this one. A collective murmur rolled through the audience. Joy straightened. Whoopi's eyebrows shot up. Sarah glanced sideways, unsettled. Selena's eyes widened, not with fear, but with disbelief. Her lips parted slightly. Wait, she said softly. You think? I was talking about hosts? About shows like this? I didn't say that, Sunny replied calmly. But the speculation is everywhere. So I want to give you the space to address it. To clarify what you meant. Selena blinked, stunned. This wasn't a question about social media or mental health. This was about something deeper, motives, alliances, betrayals. Something people could twist. Something that could ignite a wildfire online. She shifted in her chair, her hands clasping tightly for a moment before loosening. I wasn't pointing fingers at anyone, she said slowly. I was talking about experiences. Personal ones. Painful ones. Not about hosts. Not about this show. But some believed, Sunny pressed gently, that you were calling out people who pretend to support you publicly, especially those who've commented on your life before. Selena's chest rose with a long inhale. Commenting on my life, she repeated. Commenting like analyzing it from the outside. Sunny didn't respond. She didn't need to. The implication was already suspended in the air like a fragile ornament ready to drop. Joy leaned forward, waving a hand. All right, now hang on. Nobody at this table has ever wished Selena anything but the best. Let's not turn this into something. But Selena lifted a hand, stopping Joy gently. No, it's okay, she whispered. I want to address it. The studio fell silent again. People project, Selena said, her voice gaining steadiness. They hear one line and build entire theories around it. But the truth is, I've been hurt by people in private, not on television tables. People who used my vulnerability as leverage. People who promised support, but didn't show up when things got real. Sunny listened closely, her expression neutral but attentive. But, Selena continued, and her voice softened, I don't call people out by name. I don't create drama for attention. I don't weaponize interviews. Her eyes flicked briefly toward Sunny, and though she didn't name it, everyone felt the meaning. Unlike what was happening right now. Sunny's jaw tightened, just a fraction. I hear that, she said. And I respect it. But Selena, you have to admit, when you speak in broad strokes, it opens the door for interpretation. Selena's brows lowered. Does that mean I'm not allowed to express my pain unless I spell out every detail? Unless I name names publicly? Sunny stayed silent. Selena's voice deepened. I speak carefully, because I don't want to hurt people, even the ones who hurt me. That's not how I operate. A soft wave of applause began, slowly building from the back rows. Sunny let the applause settle before she responded. I understand, she said, her tone more measured now. But people also wonder whether sometimes your silence allows narratives to spin out of control. Narratives that affect others. Selena froze. There it was, the real spark. You mean narratives that affect my exes? My old friendships? She said quietly. Is that what this is really about? Sunny didn't confirm nor deny. She didn't need to. The audience shifted in their seats again. Phones were lifted. Producers exchanged frantic glances behind the cameras. This was spiraling toward something they couldn't cut away from even if they wanted to. Selena inhaled sharply, and then her tone changed. Not angry, not defensive, but heartbreakingly sincere. I've tried so hard, she whispered, to keep my life private, to stop adding to the noise. But no matter what I do, I'm dragged back into conversations about people I've moved on from. Sunny's expression softened slightly, but Selena wasn't finished. And every time I stay silent, Selena continued, people say I'm being manipulative. But if I speak, I'm called dramatic or messy. Do you know how exhausting that is? A deep stillness fell over the room. Sarah nodded sympathetically. Even Alyssa shifted uncomfortably, trying to stay neutral, but visibly moved. Whoopi leaned forward. Selena, baby, she said gently. You don't owe explanations to anyone about relationships that ended. You've grown. You've built a life. You're allowed to leave things behind. Selena smiled faintly. Thank you, she murmured. But Sunny exhaled, gathering herself. I appreciate your openness, she said. Truly. But I have one more question. A wave of nervous laughter rolled through the audience. Oh boy, Joy muttered. Here we go again. Selena braced herself. Sunny continued, careful but firm. Some critics say your vulnerability feels inconsistent. Raw one moment, distant the next. And they wonder if it's intentional, if there's a strategy behind when and how you open up. Selena stared at her, really stared. Her eyes glistened, not with tears, but with something sharper. Something that had been sitting in her chest for years. There is no strategy, she said, her voice trembling with suppressed emotion. There is surviving. There is healing. There is waking up some days able to speak, and other days barely able to breathe. Her voice cracked, this time visibly. I don't choose when I feel brave, she continued. I don't plan my breakdowns. I don't schedule my traumas. I don't ask myself, will the internet like this version of my pain? I just try. Sunny swallowed. I understand, but... No, Selena said, not loudly, not rudely, but with a firmness that made the words echo. I need you to really hear this. I am not a storyline. I'm not a plot twist for people to theorize about. I'm a human being who's been through hell, and I'm still trying to find my way out. A hush fell so heavy over the studio that you could hear the soft hum of the cameras. Selena wiped her palm across her knee, grounding herself. I came here to talk about my film, she said quietly. But somehow we're talking about everything except my work. My art. My passion. Sunny's face softened fully now, her posture less rigid, her eyes more apologetic. She hadn't expected Selena's composure to break into such raw honesty. She hadn't expected to be confronted not with anger, but with truth. Selena, Sunny said gently, I respect your honesty. And I hear you. Selena nodded but looked away, breathing shakily. For a moment, the entire table went silent. Nothing moved. Not a chair. Not a card. Not a breath. Joy finally broke the tension with a joke, forced but appreciated. Well, she said, I think I'm going to need therapy after this. The audience laughed, and the nervous energy slowly released. But the cameras stayed fixed on Selena, whose expression had shifted from shaken to something else entirely, resolve. Strength. A quiet fire rising. And while it seemed like things had calmed, they hadn't. Not even close. Because Sunny still had one card left. One question the producers had highlighted. One topic that would push everything over the edge. And the audience. They could feel the explosion coming. The audience settled uneasily, sensing the shift in energy like the slow tightening of a rope. The air felt dense now, thick with anticipation, charged with something electric and dangerous. Sunny slid the last card closer to her, and though she tried to keep her expression neutral, there was a tremor in her breath. She knew this question would not simply stir the pot. It would tip it over entirely. Selena noticed the shift. Her eyes flicked down to Sunny's hands, then back up to her face. She wasn't scared anymore. Not defensive. Just bracing, like someone who'd learned that storms don't always give warnings before they break. Joy's casual smile had faded. Sarah's fingers were tapping anxiously against her mug. Alyssa had gone still, like she didn't want to breathe at the wrong moment. Behind them, a producer mouthed something urgent to another crew member. Whoopi, reading the room better than anyone, murmured a quiet, all right now. Under her breath, not in command but in concern. Sunny inhaled and the studio froze. Selena, she said, voice even, I appreciate everything you've shared so far. And I don't want this to come off as an attack. But there's been a lot of conversation recently about the people you surround yourself with. Selena blinked. The faintest shadow crossed her face. Sunny continued. Some say that your inner circle, your team, your friends, may be contributing to the pressure you feel. That maybe certain people in your life encourage narratives that keep you in the public spotlight even when you're trying to step away. A ripple of whispers moved like a wave across the audience. Selena's body stilled completely. Sunny pressed on calmly but firmly. And some believe that because your team handles a lot of your social media, there's confusion about what is genuinely you and what is crafted by others. There it was. The question nobody expected. The one that touched not just Selena's public image, but her trust, her closest relationships, her most guarded vulnerabilities. Selena exhaled slowly, but the breath shook on its way out. So now, she said, her voice barely above a whisper, we're questioning the people I trust? Sunny didn't respond immediately. The silence was louder than any answer. Selena sat back, eyes narrowing slightly, not with anger, but with something deeper. Something wounded. I decide what I share, she said, her tone steady but chilled. Me. Not my team. Not my friends. Sunny breathed in, trying to clarify. I'm not saying they control you. But when someone as influential as you posts emotional messages or disappears online for weeks, and then comes back suddenly, people wonder if the decisions truly come from you. Selena looked at her like she was staring through a glass wall. Something in her expression hardened. Why, she said softly, does everything I do have to be questioned? Because you're loved, Sunny replied gently. Because people care. Because they worry. Selena tilted her head. Is that concern? Or control? Because those two things, they get confused a lot. The audience murmured, some nodding, others shifting uncomfortably. Sunny opened her mouth, but Selena continued before she could. You know, Selena said, people always assume someone else is pulling my strings. That I'm this fragile thing being puppeteered. She paused. But let me say this clearly. I make my own choices. And sometimes those choices are messy. Sometimes they're imperfect. But they're mine. Sunny's voice softened. Selena, I'm not trying to diminish your agency. I'm asking what many are curious about. And that curiosity, Selena said, Keeps people from seeing me as a human being. Whoopi placed a hand on the table, leaning forward slightly. We don't need to psychoanalyze this child's whole life. She's here for a movie. She's not on trial. Selena's lip quivered, the smallest, quickest flicker, but she swallowed it down. It's fine, she murmured. Let her ask. Sunny hesitated. For the first time that morning, she truly seemed unsure. But the card in front of her held a highlighted line. One she'd been instructed, encouraged, maybe even pressured to ask. Some, she said carefully, believe you surround yourself with people who protect you too much, to the point where you're shielded from accountability. A stunned gasp tore through the room. Joy sat upright. Sarah's eyes widened. Alyssa whispered, "Oh wow," under her breath. Whoopi muttered something definitely not FCC approved. Selena's entire face changed. The softness evaporated. The calm cracked. What emerged was something raw, the spark of a fire she'd tried so hard to keep contained. Accountability? She repeated, her voice trembling with disbelief. Sunny, what exactly do you think I need to be held accountable for? Sunny opened her mouth, but Selena didn't give her the chance. Do you think I'm manipulating people? She asked. Do you think I'm pretending to be broken? Do you think I want my pain to be content? Selena. No, Selena said, voice rising but still controlled. Answer me, because you're implying something very heavy, something very serious. Sunny swallowed. Her composure faltered. I'm not accusing you of anything. But you're suggesting it, Selena countered. And thousands of people will hear it that way. Her voice shook now, not with fear, but with a fury brewed from years of headlines, comments, assumptions, invasions, projections. Do you know, Selena said, what it feels like to wake up every day wondering what rumor about your mental health is trending? To have strangers decide who you should date? To have every friend you're seen with examined like they're auditioning for a role in your life? To have your trauma turned into a puzzle for people to solve? Sunny's expression softened, guilt flickering behind her eyes. I'm sorry if it came off that way. It didn't come off any way, Selena said. It was that way. The audience fell utterly silent. Selena took a deep breath, steadying herself. I surround myself with people who love me, who care about me, who've seen me at my worst and didn't run. Her voice cracked. People who've watched me struggle to even want to be alive sometimes. Sunny's eyes flickered with sudden grief. She hadn't expected the conversation to touch a place this dark, this personal. So yes, Selena said, her voice trembling. Maybe they protect me. Maybe they tell me not to read comments. Maybe they help me manage my social media, because sometimes I can't handle it. But that's not control. Her voice broke completely. That's love. A soft gasp came from the audience. Some people covered their mouths. Others blinked fast, holding back tears. Selena's gaze locked onto Sunny, unwavering, vulnerable but fierce. And it's cruel, she whispered, to twist something that keeps me alive into something that makes me look manipulative. Sunny's eyes glistened. She swallowed hard, nodding slowly. I understand, she said quietly. You're right. I shouldn't have framed it that way. But the damage, the emotional quake, had already rippled through the room. Selena wasn't crying, but her eyes shimmered with an intensity that almost shook the table itself. When people question my authenticity, she said, they question my healing, my journey, my survival. Sunny pressed her hand to her chest, genuinely moved. I hear you, she whispered. Truly. The audience sat, suspended between heartbreak and shock. Selena exhaled shakily, brushing a trembling hand over her arm. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. I hurt. I hide. I show too much. I show too little. But everything I do, everything, comes from trying to stay alive, trying to stay sane, trying to grow. No one dared move. Not Joy. Not Sarah. Not the producers behind the cameras. Even Whoopi stared at Selena with a kind of stunned tenderness, as if seeing her for the first time. And then, in a voice so quiet it barely carried through the studio, Sunny whispered, Thank you for saying that. Selena didn't respond. She stared at the table for a long moment, shoulders shaking faintly as she struggled to compose herself. And when she finally lifted her eyes again, there was something new there. Something stronger. Something unbreakable. But before she could speak, Joy suddenly slammed her hand on the table. Okay, she said loudly. We need a commercial break before I break down. A wave of relieved laughter rolled through the audience, fragile but real. The floor manager signaled. The music swelled. The lights dimmed slightly. But the moment the cameras cut, Selena didn't move. Sunny didn't move. No one moved. Because they all knew. The storm hadn't ended. It had only paused. And when they returned from that break, the most explosive moment of the episode, the moment viewers would replay for years, hadn't even happened yet. The studio was a strange kind of silent during the commercial break, a silence that didn't feel like rest, but like a held breath. Producers hovered at the edges of the stage, whispering urgently into headsets. Camera operators exchanged glances, gripping their equipment, ready for whatever aftershock was coming. Even the audience, usually buzzing during breaks, sat stiff, whispering in short bursts as if afraid their voices might crack the tension hanging over the room. Selena remained in her seat. Sunny remained in hers. Between them, a fault line. When the floor manager finally counted down, 3, 2, 1, the shift was instantaneous. The lights returned to full brightness. The theme music faded. The red camera light blinked on. The view was back live. But the energy wasn't. It stayed heavy, dense, waiting. Whoopi jumped in first, her voice warm but strained. All right, welcome back. Before the break, we had a very real, very honest conversation with Selena Gomez. Selena gave a tiny nod, composed but fragile. Sunny inhaled, bracing herself. But before Whoopi could redirect, Selena spoke. Clear. Steady. I'd like to continue, she said softly. Joy's head snapped toward her. Are you sure, honey? Selena nodded once. I am. The audience reacted with a hushed swirl of gasps and murmurs, the kind of sound that comes when people know they're witnessing something that wasn't supposed to happen. Something unscripted, unpredictable, unforgettable. Sunny straightened, a mixture of respect and apprehension in her eyes. If you're comfortable, she said quietly. Selena looked directly at her. I want to finish this conversation. Because it matters. Whoopi leaned back, surrendering the floor. And the storm resumed. Selena took a breath, the kind you take before stepping into fire. Sunny, she began, her voice gentler now. I know you weren't trying to hurt me. I know your job is to ask hard questions. But I need you to understand something. She paused, and the silence became gravitational. When you question the people who love me, she continued, you're questioning the only stability I have left. And when people online hear something like that, they twist it into something uglier. They turn it into accusations. They turn it into weapons. Sunny's face tightened with recognition. She nodded slowly. I understand that, and I'm truly sorry if my question added to that pressure. Selena shook her head. It's not about blame. It's about impact. About how easily my life gets turned into a spectacle. Sunny swallowed. You're right. Selena leaned forward just slightly, her voice warming. I know we don't always see eye to eye, but I appreciate you letting me speak. Something shifted in Sunny, the way someone softens after being seen, not as an adversary, but as a human. And I appreciate your honesty, she said. You didn't have to share what you did. Selena gave a small smile. Sometimes telling the truth is the only way to survive. The audience exhaled, finally, but just as the room began to settle, Sunny did something unexpected. Something no one, not the audience, not the producers, not even the other hosts, saw coming. She turned fully toward Selena. Can I ask you something? She said gently. Not as a journalist. As a woman. The room held still. Selena blinked. Of course. Sunny's voice lowered. Are you okay? The question didn't explode like the previous ones. It broke. Selena's breath hitched. Her eyes fluttered shut for just a moment, as if the words had reached a place inside her she wasn't prepared to expose on national television. When she opened her eyes again, they shone with a heartbreaking clarity. Some days, she whispered. No, I'm not. The audience gasped, not from shock, but from empathy, the kind that pierces straight through the chest. Selena continued, tears gathering but refusing to fall. I struggle. I get overwhelmed. I disappear because I'm scared. I break down. I get back up. And sometimes I don't know if I can do it again. The hosts were motionless. Even Joy, who always filled silence with humor, seemed to forget how to speak. Selena's voice softened to a trembling whisper. But I try anyway. It was the closest thing to a confession the world had ever heard from her. Raw, unfiltered, unperformed. Sunny placed a hand on her chest, eyes glistening. Thank you, she murmured, for trusting us with that. Selena nodded. I just want people to see me, not the version built from headlines. Whoopi leaned forward, her voice firm but full of love. Selena, You are one of the strongest young women I know. And you don't have to justify your healing to anyone." The audience broke into applause, not wild, not chaotic, but warm and human. Selena breathed in, letting the sound embrace her. But just as the tension began to soften into something tender, an audience member suddenly shouted from the second row, "We love you, Selena." Selena smiled, genuinely deeply. The first smile that reached her eyes all episode. Sunny smiled too. But then another voice called out, "Don't let them tear you down." The crowd erupted in mixed cheers and murmurs. The energy surged again, unpredictable, swelling like a wave threatening to spill over. The floor manager motioned frantically, urging the hosts to regain control. Joy seized the moment. All right. Everyone breathe. We're not trying to start a riot in here." Laughter rippled through the room, easing the tension. But the moment had already cemented itself. Raw emotions spilling from stage to audience, from audience back to stage. Sunny turned to Selena again. "Can I say something?" Selena nodded. Sunny inhaled, eyes full of sincerity. "I didn't ask those questions to tear you down. I asked them because I believe in accountability, but I also believe in compassion. And listening to you today, I understand you more than I did before." Selena's lip trembled. She looked down, grounding herself. When she lifted her head again, her voice carried something new. Forgiveness, maybe. Or simply relief. "Thank you," she said softly. "That means a lot." A beat. Then Sunny added, "And for what it's worth, I think you're doing your best. And sometimes that's enough." Selena's breath caught. She nodded slowly. "I hope so." The studio sat quietly with her vulnerability, holding it like something delicate and unbearably precious. Finally, Whoopi clapped her hands together gently. "Ladies, I think we've all felt something today." A few audience members wiped tears. Others clapped softly. No one looked bored. No one looked distracted. Everyone looked changed. Because they were. Joy leaned back. "Well," she said, "this episode is going to blow up the internet." A roar of laughter filled the room, cathartic, grateful, alive. Selena laughed too, wiping the corner of her eye with a trembling hand. "Probably," she admitted. But she wasn't ready for what came next. A producer rushed over with a piece of paper. Whoopi read it, then held it up slightly. "Well," she said, "apparently our social media is exploding right now. We haven't even finished the episode, and people are already reacting." Selena blinked in surprise. "Already?" Sarah leaned in. "You're trending in 3 countries." Selena exhaled, half laughing, half terrified. "Oh my God," Alyssa added, "and people are defending you." Fiercely. Selena froze, her expression softening into something almost childlike. Disbelief, gratitude, relief all folding into one. The audience cheered wildly. Sunny leaned over, voice gentle. "You see? People don't want a perfect version of you. They want the real you." Selena stared at her, eyes glistening. "I'm trying." "You're doing it," Sunny said quietly. And for the first time since stepping on that stage, Selena believed it. But then, as if cued by destiny, the studio lights shifted, signaling the final minutes of the show. Whoopi straightened. "All right, folks, we've had a powerful, emotional conversation today. And I think everyone here, and everyone watching at home, needs a moment to take it all in." Selena nodded, sitting up, finding her composure again. But a faint smile lingered, something peaceful, something earned. Joy reached across the table and squeezed Selena's hand. "You're welcome back anytime. Preferably when we're all emotionally prepared." Laughter rippled again. But as the applause began to swell, as the cameras started their slow outward zoom, Selena turned to the audience one last time, and something in her expression shifted. She wasn't just a guest now. She wasn't just a celebrity. She was someone speaking directly to the people who had carried her through storms she hadn't named. With a deep, steady breath, she looked into the camera. "I just want to say thank you," she said, "for listening, for understanding, for giving me space to be honest, and for remembering that I'm human." A hush swept the room. She continued, voice warm, emotional, inviting. "And I want to know what you think about everything that happened today. Your voices matter. Your thoughts matter. So tell me in the comments how this conversation made you feel, what you took from it, what stood out to you." The hosts watched her, moved. "And if you want more moments like this," Selena added with a soft smile, "make sure you subscribe to Stage View. Because this show, it doesn't just tell stories. It brings them to life." The audience erupted into applause. Loud, thunderous, almost overwhelming. The kind of cheering that lifts the air, shaking the lights, spilling emotion onto the stage itself. Selena exhaled, a single tear slipping down but catching the studio light like a tiny star. And as the camera pulled back for the final wide shot, the studio wasn't just a set anymore. It was a battlefield, a sanctuary, a confessional, a place where a woman had faced the world and herself and walked away stronger. The screen faded. The applause echoed. And the world, watching from millions of screens, was left speechless, shaken, moved, unable to look away. Because they hadn't just witnessed an interview. They had witnessed a moment. And it would live on long after the credits rolled.